Yesterday, in the early afternoon, a woman went to YouTube headquarters in San Bruno, California, and she shot and has put in critical condition, it is believed to be her boyfriend. 2 other people were also wounded. Apparently they are not in critical condition. Apparently they're just wounded, which is good. But there is a man fighting for his life right now, and a woman is dead. It's very sad. And a lot of people are going to make jokes, and I was almost one of those people. But they're predictable. It's just not worth the effort. I would rather take this opportunity to just simply consider certain things that have piqued my interest surrounding this. Firstly, this right here, this thumbnail, right? I don't know who either of these people are. This picture is not shown in this video, and I highly doubt that this is the shooter in question and her supposed boyfriend. The only time I've ever seen either of these pictures is in this thumbnail. I don't know how it happened, but you know, it's NBC. News agencies nowadays just do whatever they want to do. So don't be fooled by that. What you're seeing there may not be anything. Another thing that I found concerning in the way this is being reported is the emphasis that is being put on men. That yes, this shooter was a woman, but men are usually the ones that commit this crime, right?
San Bruno police announced that the female suspect in the shooting is dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. How unusual is it to see a female suspect in this type of shooting?
Well, first, it is pretty unusual for that part of it. The FBI did a study several years ago. I think it came out in 2013 or 2014, and they looked at about 160 active shooter incidents. It certainly wasn't exclusive. There may have been other cases that they should have looked at, but out of that 160, I think there were 6 of them that were women. So for the FBI at that time, about 4%. Looking at a more recent U.S. Secret Service study of active shooter incidents, mass shooting incidents from last year, they were all male.
So are criminal psychologists able to identify why there's such a gender split in this type of crime?
You know, I think we would have to look at the literature, but we know in America that most violent crime is heavily male. Predominantly male. Most homicide is predominantly male, not exclusively, but heavily. And so you have just a smaller sample set when you're talking about women engaged in these very violent acts. Again, not exclusive. If we look at the San Bernardino terror incident from a couple of years ago, that was a husband and wife team engaged in that. So these are not exclusively male, but predominantly and almost overwhelmingly male.
Yeah, fantastic. In this one instance, you have a woman doing the shooting, but let's take this opportunity to remind everybody that men are really the violent ones, and they're the ones that do this more often than not. Another thing that I thought was interesting about the way this is being played out, so to speak, is this is all being handled very strangely. There isn't a lot that's known other than pretty much what I told you in the beginning of this video. Nothing's come out Nobody's said who this person is. Nobody's said who the victim is. The person in critical condition. Nothing. I can't imagine why it is that the public wouldn't be, how it wouldn't be proper to report on that within the first day, considering that usually that's the way it happens. Usually there's interviews with friends of the victim, friends of the perpetrator. Usually there's something that gets put out in the first day other than a woman went to YouTube headquarters and shot some people. That's all we know. It's very odd with how fast-paced the news is. And it really makes me wonder why that is. And it really makes me wonder who these people are. But we'll have to see how things play out. Again, only the first day. They're actually playing it pretty much by the book, which is really interesting. Because they're actually playing it by the book. Like, they're really playing it by the book. Everything's very hush-hush right now because investigation is going on. Usually when an investigation is going on, everybody just starts talking about everything that's happening because it's news. And I don't really entirely know what all they may be investigating, considering that shooter committed suicide, man's in critical condition, and 2 other people are injured. Situation's over. So it's just interesting how slowly information is coming out through the course of the day. But at the end of the day, none of that matters. What matters is that somebody was so damaged mentally that they decided to take a gun and shoot people. People are going to say it's the gun. And I just don't, you know, the more these shootings happen by people with guns and not by guns that just float, the more this happens, the more I begin to think to myself, I really wonder if guns are actually the problem. Because bombs are illegal too. It doesn't stop people from making them. So, you know, gotta kind of wonder. Maybe looking at the gun situation as opposed to looking at the people and why it is they do these things and whether or not it may have been preventable in some way. You know, you kind of want to target people that you want to target, not just everybody or every one thing. There's a lot of dangerous tools in this world. Doesn't stop people from using them responsibly or irresponsibly. Just take it away. But that's also another thing that's not really being brought up. Nobody's talking about the gun. Nobody's pushing the gun issue. Very strange. So, we'll have to see what happens from here. I'm sure tomorrow will bring more information. But for right now, everybody should be sending their good vibes towards the guy who's laid up in the hospital. because right now he's fighting for his life. And we need to remember that the woman who shot herself today, or yesterday, you kind of look at her and say, there before the grace of God go I. We all have that in us. An emotional side that pushes us to do things that we may not normally do. And it's very important to figure out a way to exercise those demons before the demons exercise you. I bet none of you thought they were going to see me in this video. When just useless, senseless, grand violence, and when I say grand, I mean it in the sense of large, not good. When these things happen and we just don't understand why, and we're confused, and things might feel hopeless, you might really worry at what's going on in the world, and when it's going to happen to you, if it's going to happen to you, somebody you know, somebody you love. All these things begin to go through your head. And it's very confusing. It's a very traumatic time. Because it really forces you to view your own mortality as something that's tangible and right in front of you. You know what I mean? It makes you more aware of it. And we tend to draw in when that happens. And we become very self-reflective because we have to try and figure out a way to understand what we've seen, what's happening. We have to try and figure out a way to rationalize how that fits in our world and how we can still live in a world that fits into. And I kind of represent that by taking the visual element out of the video. I put up the black image with the gray line. And that's all you see. You don't see me. It misses that one fundamental thing that is always present in 99.9% of all of my other videos. And I do that to kind of jar you into the moment, because it may take a second for the full realization to hit, oh, this is not going to be a fun video. And you know, you get that moment where you realize this is now very serious. And I want that. That's important. I take a lot of things as a joke, and not everything. There is a time in which seriousness must prevail. And so I put that as a very staggering, obvious sign that this is not going to be a fun video. This is not going to be one where you're going to laugh at. And I also do it because you have to pay more attention to what I say when you can't look at me in the eye. Because you have nothing else to do but just sit there and stare at a black screen and just allow my words to just wash over you. I think it focuses people more. Even though most likely most of you go, oh, there's going to be nothing to fucking see here, and you probably toddle off to do whatever. I know a lot of people put me on when they're cleaning the house or whatever. So, it is what it is. But nevertheless, for those of you who sit there and just stare intently at the black screen and just listen to me, I hope that you're paying more attention to what I'm actually saying, as opposed to trying to figure out a way to one-up me by proving me wrong somehow, because it's not the time for that. This isn't the competition. We're being serious now, right? And I very rarely get shitty comments on those videos. And I very often get very insightful, deep comments on those videos. And so that tells me that it's working. But we now have more information. And it's time to look at that.
Investigators say the suspected shooter was a YouTube personality who had recently gotten angry with the website.
Tragedy is an interesting thing. It puts your world in perspective with such a whip crack that all manner of unconscious thoughts just tend to float to the surface. And one of those unconscious thoughts was that I was so happy that it was some girl that was pissed at her boyfriend and went to his work and shot him, as opposed to somebody who's a content creator who's pissed at YouTube, so they decided to just go out in a It really makes me wonder if in her mind she thought of herself as the Buddhist monk immolating himself, you know? If that was her perception of what she was doing, but it's really no different than a terrorist just going in somewhere and shooting themselves, shooting people and then killing themselves. It's really no different. I wonder if in her mind she pictured herself as the hero. Because if that's the case, my God, what a broken soul.
KCAL9's Tina Patel live in Menifee, where she spoke to the woman's family. Tina?
Yeah, I had a chance to speak with that woman's father and brother, both of them too emotional, say they're going through too much to go on camera with us. But they do say that they knew about this woman's grudges against YouTube and that they had tried to warn authorities.
Another reoccurring theme. Troubling behavior was observed, troubling behavior was reported, and nothing was done. I don't know. It's one of those things. What do you do? You keep saying you need to pay more attention to mental health when these things get reported. Something needs to be fucking done, right? What do? Do you mandate that anybody who is reported by somebody saying they're a loved one, whatever, saying that they've seen troubling behavior in this person, and then state mandated 48-hour evaluation? Because that sounds like an extremely bad idea. Because then you're going to have assholes who are going to take advantage of that and go, oh. I mean, for fuck's sake, people were calling SWAT teams on people. You know what I mean? This is far from outside of the realm of possibility that somebody's going to fucking abuse that. So what do you do? What do you do? The police don't have the fucking resources to put a tail and stake out a stale on every person who's reported as maybe they might have some shit going on. So what do you do? But it is certainly a shame that I seem to be the only one fucking trying to bounce ideas off the fucking walls. Looking at you people in our government.
I'm being discriminated and filtered on YouTube.
This is a recent video posted by Nasim Aghdam. In it, she complains that YouTube has started filtering her page, adding age restrictions to keep her viewership down.
I'm not surprised. I'm really not surprised. Honestly, I highly doubt that I predicted this in any way. Maybe you guys might be able to tell me if I'm wrong on that. It could have been an errant fucking comment I made in one of my YouTube videos. I have no idea. But this doesn't surprise me. You know what I mean? To be a performer of any sort, really, to put yourself out there in that way, it's a very sadistic act of the self. You don't know what anybody thinks about you until they tell you. Right? If there's somebody in front of you, you can catch a look on their face, facial expressions, body language, extremely universal, pretty much universal. So, we understand. But when you put something up on YouTube, like I have said to people over and over and over again, when I first started, and I would get at best 10 views on a video, at best, and no comments. You don't know if anybody liked it or not. But you can certainly tell that nobody's fucking watching it, because nobody's watching it. So clearly that is a message. But when you begin to get feedback, if you begin to get a following and you begin to get people commenting and you begin to get actual feedback, you know for certain how you're being received. And if you're being received positively, you really like that. That's awesome. Like you gain some manner of validation from that. Your perspective is being agreed upon by other people. There's your validation. And to have that begin to grow at a pace that is great to watch, you know, that's very, very cool. And then to have that all of a sudden, you know, slow to a trickle and stop, it's heartbreaking. You know, you miss the wild roller coaster ride of success and being seen, being liked, and you begin to just get it from the same sources over and over again, and it grows stagnant. It's like, yeah, I know you like me. I need more people like me. You know what I mean? And if you allow that almost addiction to the adoration of the crowd, if you allow that to become of paramount importance to you, that's a very delicate house of cards that you began to put your perceived self-worth into. And if that house collapses, that will have a profound effect on your mental stability. And you know, I taking into account my situation, I knew what I was doing when I decided to change my content. I knew what was going to happen. But knowing it's going to happen and watching it happen, two vastly different things. You know, they affect you in a very different way. And to depending on how you are able to cope with that, depends greatly on how you react to that. In my case, like I said, I had already kind of rationalized it out. You know what I mean? I knew that making the videos that I was planning to make, I knew what that was going to do to my subscriber base. And I knew that that was going to be a thing that was going to hurt me. And moving out of the YouTube drama genre, I also knew that was going to hurt me because I knew that was where I was getting all of my subscribers from. So I knew that I was going to go back to where I was when I was just doing politics. And here we are, you know. So I worked to prepare myself ahead of time, you know, when I was making the video, before I was making the video. The entire day turned into thinking about whether or not I want to make that choice. And ultimately I just decided on a principle of my own that, I mean, I didn't like what was happening. And I had the power to affect the change that would make the situation something that I liked. And so, because I don't want to resent doing YouTube, and I don't want to not like doing YouTube, I would much rather prefer to enjoy doing it the way that I enjoyed doing it, which was doing content that I wanted to do. And avoiding content that was going to be misunderstood because I could deliver the same message in a different way. That was kind of the way I looked at it. So I made a conscious decision to nuke my upward growth. But to have your upward growth stripped from you, and again, to have that happen while you're in the act of the sadistic act of putting yourself out there for people to judge, for people to criticize. I mean, that's an extremely bold move to do, and not many people have the fortitude to say, I will be able to do this no matter what happens. I understand my risks, and I understand why I'm doing what I'm doing and what I want to do, and I'm doing it for this purpose, and I get what could happen. I've thought this through. A lot of people don't do that. And when the worst possible situation happens, they're not prepared for it. And it makes you draw within. And you begin to attempt to rationalize this thing that happened in a world you now live in. And how can you live in this world with this thing? And some people decide they can't live in a world where that thing happened. And they hate so much this certain group of people, maybe just all people, who even knows, but you get so much hate in you, and it takes control of you, and it becomes the thing that you think about more than anything else, is how could they have done this to me? And you blame them for it, and you let that just grow and fester inside of you, and it feeds itself, because you think about the thing that makes you angry, which makes you angry, which then makes you think more about the things that make you angry, which makes you angrier, which makes you then want to consider even more things that will even more. It is a vicious. Hatred is something that eats itself and then shits more of itself out. And then just eats more of itself to just shit more of itself out. And it grows and grows, and it's a beast that cannot be fed. And when it gets a hold of you at your core, and it becomes what you are, then you are a beast that cannot be fed. No matter what.
Family members in Menifee, where she used to live, tell us she had been making a living as a social media personality, posting in English, Farsi, and Turkish about animal rights and becoming a vegan, but also making more upbeat music and dance videos. The family became concerned this past weekend when they couldn't reach Aghdam by phone or at her home in San Diego. They alerted police, and at 2 a.m. Tuesday morning, they got word that Aghdam had been found safe in her car in Mountain View, California. When the family realized that was close to YouTube headquarters in San Bruno, they told police that Aghdam had been complaining about YouTube and how the company was, quote, ruining her life. They say police told them they would keep an eye on her.
There is a lot going on in that clip. And I understand there's a lot going on in that clip. But what is of paramount importance for you to keep in your mind, I believe, as the key points of this entire situation, because of pressure from the current ideologies that are prevalent in our society, YouTube was forced to put in place measures to attempt to curtail backlash of a negative sort that would cost that company money. That's their responsibility. That doesn't mean that they're evil because they wanted to make money. That is their responsibility to their investors. That is their responsibility to the people that work for them. That includes me. It includes PewDiePie, me, and everybody with one subscriber that has one monetized video that has had one monetized view. It is their responsibility to get us advertising revenue. That is part of our agreement. Don't get this twisted. Because of that, things had to happen to protect the asset that we all take part in, including you viewers. In doing that, many people were how do I even put this? Many people were judged to be unworthy of all possible advertisement because some advertisers don't want to get boycotted, so they can't have their product seen to be in relation with something that the loud minority of people who like to boycott people would be upset about. So they had to be restricted. And because of that, one individual who is uniquely unstable took it upon herself to act out in a violent manner against the company in which she felt aggrieved her. She said in the video that she felt she was being discriminated against. That is language I have heard in the past. The power hierarchy struggle of harmful past ideologies that should have stayed in the past and not been dredged back up, I believe, is going to wind up being a factor in this. I don't know this for sure. This is me predicting. And I think that that is not going to be discussed at all by anyone except me here right now, and those of you who decide to choose this point to be the point that they will leave their comment about. I've seen this coming. A lot of people have seen this coming. Because this is what happens when you decide to pit people against each other. You get people fighting each other. We need to wake up and think about what we're pretending to think about.
And back out here live, law enforcement just showed up. They're inside the family home talking to them right now. Now, we asked the family if Aghdam had ever had a gun or any weapons. They said not that they knew of. And as far as they knew, she didn't know anybody personally at YouTube headquarters. We asked why she might have done something like this right now, and they said they didn't know. But they do say that it's just 2 days away from her birthday.
And that's very symbolic. There's a lot of pathology in this. If this is even partially correct, there's a lot of pathology in this. It's very sad. It's very sad. But you say what you want to about her content. You can say what you want to about her as a person. You can say what you want to about her beliefs or ideologies. But at the end of the day, no matter what it was, something pushed her to the point where she felt that this was going to be a good thing for somebody. Most likely, her. This seems very clickbaity. And it's just so sad. It's just so goddamn sad. Like, because seriously, the comment that I made in the first video I made, there before the grace of God go I. I'm one extraordinarily sick moment away from doing that. You know what I mean? A lot of people are one extraordinarily sick moment away from doing that. A lot of people were affected by this. And a lot of people have not rationally thought out the entirety of the picture involved. And a lot of people don't see the real source of where this is coming from. You have to go to the root cause. People are going to go, she was a crazy vegan. I'm sure Vegan Gaines is going to hear nothing but shit about this. I feel bad for him. He shouldn't have to deal with that, but I'm sure it's fucking coming. And I'm sure most of it he's going to bring on himself, so whatever. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to go, I was using SJW, and they're going to touch on it. The real root of the cause. But it's going to be so wrapped in their own fucked ideology, and it's going to have their own snide, superior fucking way of delivering it as, oh, look, it wasn't one of us that did it. See, we're the sane ones. No. No. We're all just one sick moment, one extremely sick moment away from doing that. Nothing of this surprises me. Not one bit. It's textbook. What happens when you decide to go down this road, when you decide to play tribes fighting each other? This is what happens when you begin to restrict the freedoms of people. When you begin to say, there's certain things I just don't want to hear about. I don't care. So there's just certain things you don't want to know. There's just certain things you don't ever want to learn about, find out about, educate yourself on, become more knowledgeable in. To be a better person, to have a deeper understanding. Nah, fuck that, I don't want that. Why on earth would I want that? I don't know. Save lives? And this is the beginning. And you think this is bad? Last year, there were 3 sides in open combat in the streets, and a woman got ran over. And what's the root cause? Nazis? No. This tribal mentality. The fact that there were Nazis and Antifa and Black Lives Matter. 3 of the major faiths were all present for the beginning skirmish. To really kind of test the waters of the actual, how far do we really want to go into class warfare, race warfare, ideology warfare. What's it really going to look like when we're actually legitimately fighting in the streets? It baffles me. Baffles me that people are going to make these connections and they're going to take it as an opportunity to thumb their nose at the opposition, as opposed to saying, that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing to people. You need to stop. When are we going to realize that picking sides like it's an elementary school game? But the object of the game is now we're just going to hate each other. We're all on different sides now and we're just going to hate each other. What fun. What a healthy way to interact with each other in the world. And all for the greater good. There's a video that I made a while ago. I seriously think all of you watching this need to watch. I was talking about the Wizard's rules. Sounds stupid, but bear with me. The first two are really the ones that just run through my head all day long. Every single day. The first two rules. So key. So important. First rule. People are stupid. And they will believe whatever they want to believe because they either want it to be true or fear it to be true. The second rule is the greatest harm can result from the best of intentions. I really don't think that needs explaining. Certainly not today.
See, what I've been trying to do about this, because I thought this through a long time ago, I thought, well, I don't want to, I think the group identity game ends in blood. It doesn't matter who plays it. Left-wingers play it, blood. Right-wingers play it, blood. And lots of it, not just a little bit. You can't play the identity politics game. Well, so what do you do instead? You live the mythologically heroic life as an individual. That's the right place to work. And that's the message of the West, as far as I'm concerned, is that we figured that out. We figured out that the collective identity was not the pinnacle statement. That the individual, not that collective identities have no value. Obviously, family has value and your organizations have value, all of that. That's not the issue. The issue is what's the paramount value? What's the metric by which people should be measured? And the answer is they should be measured as individuals, as if they have a divine soul. They should be measured in that manner.